Build creative confidence. Beat the inspiration addiction. Join the Writer's Gym. This series of the Writer's Gym, I'm focusing on what makes writers curious, what makes them feel inspired, what makes them enjoy doing the writing. Because my experience of the enjoyment of the writing is that word curiosity. Anything that comes out as confidence, anything that comes out as getting the job done, rather than questioning yourself so much you can't get the job done. That step for me came through working out what I love. So I hope you enjoy these conversations with wonderful authors, and do check the show notes so you can find out more about all of them. This new series of the Writer's Gym podcast is particularly important to me because we are looking at what our membership need in order to do the writing and live the lives creatively that they want to write and live. I am so delighted that I met producer and author Ashley Lexine, and she and I have been working together within the Writer's Gym, and it's been such a pleasure to see her ideas of what she wants to publish and how she wants to do that becoming more her own as we get to know each other. It's also a pleasure, while Chris is off on other projects, to have Ashley producing this podcast with me. I hope you enjoy this as much as I have. Ashley Lexine.
Rachel Knightley.
Welcome to the Writer's Gym.
Thank you so much for having me. I am always excited to get to have a little chat with you, no matter what the circumstances.
And it's so great to be interviewing you and to have you coming on board as producer, because we actually met on a podcast.
Yes. Officially, our in-person, our face-to-face meeting was on my podcast. I'm like, oh yeah, it was. That's my podcast. Yeah, and we're coming up on a year since the Healthy Metal Hippie has been out. And well, I mean, we're still a few months off, but I'm going to say we're closing in on a year. And it's been really exciting. And honestly, your episode always brings me such joy when I listen back to it and get feedback on it. Healthy Metal Hippie is all about bringing art and wellness together. And we talked a lot about getting your work out of you, and for one, and also talking about using writing as a healing tool and just kind of setting yourself free. And it was very helpful for me, and it was like its own therapy session. And then it's helped a lot of people since. I've had lots of feedback that everybody loves you.
That's really lovely to hear. It was so nice being on it, because I think our messages and our interests really did mesh very, very well. That with the Writer's Gym, as you say, I'm there to help people work out what it is that's stopping them from writing and find healthy habits so that they are writing regularly. And it becomes less of being stuck in what does this say about me, and more the curiosity of what is in me, what do I want to say, what do I want to do. I would have talked a lot about very dear departed David Lynch, who has been an enormous influence on me. And so it's really nice to have this conversation with you now and sort of recap some of that stuff, because one of the main books that I have recommended to you on Healthy Metal Hippie, and to anybody else I'm talking to whenever I get a chance, frankly, is Catching the Big Fish by David Lynch. And getting out of the way of your own ideas, making space, as he calls it, room to dream.
Yes.
Is what we're all about. And I think before people do that, the mental health implications of not realizing we've got that freedom are huge, aren't they?
Enormous. And then sometimes I think you don't even realize it until you're you're stuck in the thick of it. And then you're like, shit, how do I get out of this?
Yeah. By the time it's got past, maybe I should say something about this, or maybe I should reach out to somebody. The bit where it's fun takes further to get back to it. We get back there. We absolutely do get back there.
Yes.
But it is absolutely there. So you then became a member of the Writer's Gym.
I love being part of the Writer's Gym because it has really kind of helped me set boundaries around my writing, in that I have to make space for myself to do it without guilt, and just to be totally free while I am doing it. It's like, I love carving out that chunk of space, but I also love the new perspectives that you give on everything, on life and things that you're working on, and how to approach new projects or old projects that are coming back out of the woodwork again. It's a special place to be.
Something that I think is maybe a rebranding of people's expectations a lot when they're new to the Writer's Gym is people do come in wanting to not feel guilty, wanting to not feel shame about either making the time or not making the time. And the thing that I think you're finding, and that I think a lot of people are finding, is the real strength comes not from the emotion going away, but from recognizing the emotion and realizing it's not the boss of you, among other things. Is that your experience with the guilt?
Yes, I think so too. I think that's absolutely right. It has changed a lot about, and there's still times that I don't make time for writing, but I'm not beating myself up about it anymore. And so that part's really nice. But in doing that, I've also had more time for writing than I ever seemed to, which is amazing as my schedule gets busier.
Would it be okay to maybe give an example of what that looks like for you? Because obviously creating time is one of the hardest things people ever do. And everyone, including you, has an enormously busy life, has different facets of their life and what the demands on their time and their energy are. Would you be up for giving people an example of how that's gone for you?
So, yeah, one thing for me is about how, and it's interesting too, because I've been talking about this a lot lately on my podcast, on other socials, but that realization that we are more in control than we feel that we are sometimes, that is a big one for me. It also, the other thing I keep talking about, it's seemingly everywhere, truly, the past few weeks is, you don't miss your doctor's appointments. You don't miss, your appointments to go see your personal trainer at the gym or whatever, your job interviews, whatever the appointment may be. You don't miss that. And so when you make an appointment for yourself to sit down and write, it is there.
Yeah. So, for example, where in your life there's work, there's family, there's a dog.
Yes.
There's a podcast, there's another job in music. And that's just without me even having to think about it. But in terms of sort of the specifics around stuff in life and making that time for creativity, could you maybe give us an example of what's worked for you? Because some people are early morning people before everyone else gets up. Some people do it in different ways.
Oh my gosh, yes. That's, I think the first step actually is finding out your own personal schedule and what works for you. Okay,
yeah,
so
because we did that. We talked about the ideal timetable and that's the first stage is always what would ideal look like, because we condition ourselves to be so sure we can't get it that we often don't tell ourselves what it would even look like. And then we start going, what time do we carve? Where is the time? So what would it be for you?
So because most of my days are fairly flexible, right? I do. So there's a couple things. I have so many thoughts on this. I'm like, I'm excited. Okay. First of all, another great realization over the past couple of years is just because regular people have an 8 to 4 or 9:30, 9 to 5:30 or whatever schedule, that doesn't mean your schedule has to look that way. That has been like mind-blowing for me, which is also kind of funny to say, but because I think we get so conditioned, like you wake up really early, you get this stuff done, you work, you come home, you eat dinner, and then, you go to bed. That is life. But first of all, realizing that, life is actually so much more than that. Your schedule does not have to look like that. And of course, there are constraints in that sometimes that, yes, you may still have to work the 9 to 5, and that's fine. But you can, I don't know, maybe you work your lunch break by writing. You can carve space for it there. I actually really like going out to like a coffee shop or something. I like writing there because I always need a change of scenery, as you know. I like going different places that make me feel inspired to write. And just, I think it is just fresh energy that just makes me feel like, I'm in the zone.
That fresh energy, just to go back on a couple of the things you've mentioned, walking or driving or going somewhere, and the cafe or library or other place at the end of it. All of these are ways of making an active choice for some people. For other people, don't get me wrong, home is the place that writing happens, and there's no right or wrong, but it's very much finding your own one, isn't it? So I know you've done a bit of that. I also know that you've come to the writing room and you've come to coffee and creativity, and you're making time and space that is writing time within the writer's gym when we collect for those. So what's all that been like?
So yeah, like I say, I like going places, but I actually do write probably 95% of what I write at home. And I love having that space because, I don't know, maybe it feels like working in groups when you're at school and everyone just has silent working time. and I really love that. And I also really love the coffee and creativity because then you can just create whatever as well.
So just for anyone who's listening and is new to that, we have a chat at the beginning. We have writing time. There are things that come out of that conversation that if people need or want prompts or any kind of holding pattern, we can absolutely do that. But it's time to use however you want to use it. And then we have a chat at the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I really love that time. Schedule has prevented me from joining a few lately, but yeah, I really, really enjoy that time. I also just enjoy that community of being together. And even though you're all working independently, you're all working towards your own goals and your own projects. It's cool because you're seeing art and excitement come to life in front of you, you know?
And you can absolutely feel it, can't you? And the energy of everybody supporting each other and being interested in what's going on for each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That is really, really nice to hear. And the writing room as well that we have, as everybody's invited on Mondays, but then there's obviously the members only sessions at other times. What's that been like for you?
I actually, those are some of my most productive times because, again, like I say, you make the appointment, you're like, that is my set time to do it. And I might work on different things. I have a weekly newsletter, for example, and sometimes I use that writer's room just to write a month of newsletters. Sometimes I use it to work on my book. Sometimes I use it for other projects that I have going on. But it's always writing, and it's always something that is important to me.
And as your Writers Gym membership gets normalised in your head, have you found that the writing room being a thing in the world of fact, that on Mondays we do this and on Thursdays we do that and on Wednesdays we have coffee and creativity, have you found that sort of stabilising in your mind, becoming real?
Yes, absolutely. And I actually kind of chart out every week which ones I can make, which ones I can't, and I try and get in for everything. But if I get in for one a week, I'm really happy.
And when you think that a year ago that wouldn't have been happening at all, it's not a case of have to do everything, is it? You know, it's find the bits that work for you.
It's get to do.
Yeah.
And I love that mindset switch too. I mean, it's something that I've talked about with other coaches for a really long time, but just switching your mindset from I have to do this is to I get to. You take in gratitude just that you get to experience all of the things that you do.
And also ownership, I think, because, you know, gratitude is such a great tool when you're using it to do more of what you know you can put into the universe. But it's a case of taking away the idea that this is a luxury item. This is something I do for my mental health. This is actually something I do for my physical health as well. Having that routine, everything finds its place in the week. It becomes stronger.
Yes. Oh, I absolutely agree.
I was also really happy that I challenged you on where we see our work in the world, because this was actually quite a big thing to say in a way, I think, is that while self-publishing can be absolutely the right thing for certain people and certain books and in certain situations, it not being binary, it not being I either do this or I do that, and the opportunity for a story to go out to other people and be critiqued and then have agents say, here is what would make it be for me or not, and finding the people that can be part of your journey. It was very nice hearing you say to me, I can't remember the exact words right now, but it was along the lines of, I hadn't seen it, or I hadn't seen myself like that, and that could be part of its journey if I choose it to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because I've kind of been thinking about where I want to go. And also, it's kind of is a bit of a confidence boost too, right? Where you sit there going, yeah, actually, a publisher would want this book, versus like, nobody would pick it up. And
in a way, we're doing a good thing for self-publishing by critiquing ourselves more like that, because if self-publishing becomes what we do when we're not fully convinced that the audience or the publisher is going to want it, that's not the kind of relationship that, if self-publishing with the other person, that they'd want to be in. It needs to not be default. It needs, wherever it goes, wherever our work goes, we want to choose lovingly. We want to choose affirmatively.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that is also a big part of this book too. So it's very important.
Yeah. Well, I won't ask you too much, because I know you're keeping that to yourself for now, but I am excited that we will hear about what you're writing about when you are ready.
Well, I'm happy to tell you.
Brilliant. Go for it.
It's been a hard book to write. Now, a lot of this is going through personal experiences, and I don't think I'm going to go deep enough to say trigger warning, but let's say trigger warning just around suicide, around domestic violence, and all these, real fun things that people do experience in their lives, and coming through it on the other side. But it's not really a life story. It's more so like, I have been there. I understand how you feel, and this is my roadmap to find your way through the other side.
Fantastic.
And so I have done all the planning and everything. It's about a quarter written right now. And, but some of it, when you have to pull these little things out of the depths, when you're going through everything that's happened, you're like, ouch, okay, that's hard to write about. But I think it's a really good thing. And I do think that at the end of the day, it will help people, and it'll give people hope for whatever they may be going through. And I'm not sitting here saying that I've been through the worst that life has to offer, but I've definitely had my moments from a very, very far too young age. So.
And something else that's probably worth including in as we talk about this is, I remember when you had a piece published in a magazine about domestic violence, new chapter of life, moving forward in love with people in your life now. And
this is the Christmas one.
Yeah. And something that I found really profound was, it didn't even necessarily occur to me as a surprise that when others in the writer's gym, were saying, oh, Ash, well done, and so glad you did this, and, it's brilliant that you're sharing this because it really, really helps people. It didn't occur to me, I think, until you said it to me, quite how much of a sort of surprise it was to get that reaction. And I think that's probably a pretty universal experience, actually, that when it's our own stories, we don't fully honour the fact that actually, yeah, it is a big deal. And yeah, people do need to hear that this growth experience has come because it needed to, and other people's need to as well. That what you're doing by having the courage and consistency to engage with that process and tell that story is as big a deal as the consistency of engaging in the growth in the first place and making the life changes. It is of genuine help to other people, many of whom we will never know. And with the writer's gym, there are people in there I've either never met face to face, that it's all been online. It's not everybody, but it's some.
Yeah.
And there's people in Australia, there's people in New Zealand, there's people all over the place who, our stories are connecting, and they're part of people's psychological landscape, and your growth is part of other people's growth.
Yes. And I think that's also really something great. Just all the words just came out.
That happens with a first draft when you are saying something emotional.
No. I'm saying I just like apparently can't speak.
No, you're not. You are saying that you are saying something that matters, because the thing about a first draft on paper is it's just like going blah, 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 when you're talking to somebody about something that matters. And I'm glad that you get to do that on audio so people can hear it happen, because it's what we need to the faith and to be able to do. And doing that in front of me is pretty much what I am here to do. It's what I am here to facilitate.
And yes, and that is true. You definitely are here for that. I think this is probably why, in general, I am very attracted to biographies, mostly autobiographies. I just want to hear people's stories, because that's exactly it. Connects us like nothing else can, because we're human at the end of the day, and we are hardwired for connection and supporting each other in communities and loving each other. And it's, and so if I even could help one person by writing this book, it would be worth it. And I also I think this will be a big part of just totally setting myself free from burdens that I have carried, if that makes sense.
More than sense. It's absolutely wonderful to see you doing that for yourself, for your family, for your listeners, for your readers, for the Writers' Gym, for everybody. It's such an important thing. I have one last question, if that is okay. And I'd love to know, with writing, if there are any particular writing habits or writing exercises, because as we know from the Writers' Gym, just like your physical body responds well to doing small things a lot of times rather than burn out by doing it once. It's the regularity, it's the little habits that really change things in the directions that you want to change things. What's been good for you?
For doing the little things, or for
maybe
just being in the gym, or
I'll give you a couple of examples, and maybe they're relevant examples, maybe something else entirely is. For some people, it's the amount of time that we get hung up on. I don't have time to do justice to it. I need a completely empty day. And then we move towards, do you know what? If I go to the loo at work for 5 minutes, no one's going to be like, where were you? I'm going to go to the loo, in theory. I'm going to take out my notebook, sit on the floor, and it's 5 minutes. And you do that the way other people do smoking breaks. So that might be one for time. For actual writing exercises, it might be a point of view thing. Sometimes I suggest to people, you're hanging back a little bit, you're doing the telling, but you're not showing us what it's like to be this human. I dare you to jump into their head for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And there are lots of prompts that I give to get people doing that. So that's one for point of view. That was one for using time. It depends what's going on for the person. But is there anything in particular either actually that you've enjoyed? Or if you prefer, if you want to ask me for something, if there's an exercise or if there's an issue you'd like an exercise for?
It's a toughie.
Take your time. Take your time.
I mean, I guess for me, the things I like that's had a big impact is setting the time and actually being able to get a lot of things done. And also, maybe not in the toilet, but making sure now that I always have a notebook with me to write down my little ideas for more, I don't know. I don't even want to call it creative writing, but like songwriting, and it's all creative writing at the end of the day.
It's all creative writing. But I really shocked someone the other day by saying, yes, non-fiction does involve creativity in the sense that you can only you have the voice that you have, and only you can facilitate it and bring it out. And people have this strange idea that creativity only means making things up, and it's so much broader and deeper.
And I think always like creative writing. I ran the creative writing class in my school when I was in high school, and it was delightful. But I always think of it like poetry and playwriting, and it's like, no, it's literally everything.
It's literally everything.
If you put your pen to paper, your fingers to keyboard,
yeah,
it's creative writing.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the thing that I want to make more time for, though, is doing my poetry writing, because that's actually poetry, songwriting. That's really where my heart is like little butterfly, happy fairy dust fly away.
Well, do you know what? I am going to take that as my instruction for this year, is keep an eye on how we can facilitate you having the time, the space, the curiosity, which is the true meaning of confidence. That's what confidence really feels like. It feels like curiosity. That's what we're going to look for this year.
Yes, I'm so in for that.
And thank you for being my new producer on the Writer's Gym podcast.
I'm really honored to be chosen for the task. And I'm really proud to be part of the Writer's Gym, no matter what, whether it's the podcast or the group membership, or I'm just happy and thankful for your friendship.
Right back at you. Ashley Lexine, thank you so much for joining the Writer's Gym.
Thank you, Rachel.
You've visited the Writer's Gym with author and coach Dr. Rachel Knightley. Production and sound design are by Ashley Lexine, and theme music is by Chris Gregory. To join a Writer's Gym workout online or in London, as a guest or as a member, visit writersgym.com or email thewritersgym@rachelknightley.com.